What's up, horror lovers? Ever feel like someone's always watching you? Well, that was the reality for me. But I didn't know it at first. Mr. J, no, not some cool, mysterious figure, but a shadow in aviator sunglasses, started stalking me when I was just 13. I never understood why or how. He always seemed to be there. He never spoke, never touched me. But I always knew, whether it was after school when Dad dropped me off, or when I walked to the corner store for a popsicle, or even after church. He was there. That damn bike. That same pair of sunglasses, always from a distance. I never understood it, but maybe I didn't need to. He was like a ghost, a constant that was just there. It was unnerving, yet strangely comforting. His presence became a part of my routine. At night, I'd hear him, his voice whispering through the crack of my window. Sleep well, sweet angel. A strange calm washed over me. I never thought much of it. After all, wasn't everyone supposed to have a guardian angel? He wasn't aggressive. He never tried to break in, never tried to lure me into some trap. But he never left. Like a stalker straight out of a nightmare. He just lingered. And for the longest time, I didn't even think it was all that strange. A part of me even thought it was normal. That was, until Paula Jean's stalker was arrested. Paula Jean wasn't like the rest of us. She was the kind of girl the world seemed to prey on. Vulnerable, with a body that was maturing too fast for her age. One day, she was groped by a man in his 50s. The worst part, nobody had even noticed him until it was too late. They arrested him, but Paula Jean, she never really recovered. It was then that I realized the truth about my own stalker. The whispers, the lingering presence. It wasn't the comforting feeling I thought it was. I wasn't being watched over. I was being hunted. The teachers sat us down after the incident, warning us about older men who might follow us, how we should seek help if we ever found ourselves being followed. That's when the truth hit me hard. Mr. J, the man who'd been haunting my every step, wasn't some harmless figure in my mind. He was a predator. After the lesson, I told my best friend Annie. But Annie, she didn't get it. To her, Mr. J was dreamy, a perfect match for someone like me. She even joked about me dating him someday, but I wasn't laughing. He's a stalker, I insisted. But Annie didn't believe me. He's young and handsome, she said. He just looks like Ryan Phillip. I couldn't ignore it anymore. I told my parents about the man in the aviator sunglasses. After that, everything changed. I moved from school to school, never staying in one place for too long. Mr. J followed me everywhere, relentless and silent. No matter where I went, across town, to another city, to live with my grandparents, he was always lurking in the background. It was as though he was my shadow, a specter that refused to be shaken. I moved so often that I started to wonder if maybe no one else could see him. Was I imagining it all? Was I going crazy? My family seemed to think I was overreacting, but they never saw the same bike, never felt the same chill creeping up their spines. When I turned 18, I thought I had finally escaped. I moved away for college, and the nightmares of Mr. J started to fade. It wasn't until I was 23, living in Europe, that I truly felt free. The quiet was overwhelming at first. No footsteps outside my window, no glimpses of that red bike. I didn't feel him anymore. For the first time, I could breathe. I could live. I buried the memories deep, focusing on my career and personal growth. But even then, a part of me feared he might come back. What would I do if he found me again? I couldn't shake the fear that no matter where I went, he would follow. And I never let myself fall in love. Until one day, I met Tiago. Tiago was everything I thought I could never have. He was charming, successful, and his emerald eyes made my heart race. We clicked instantly, like fate itself had thrown us together. I allowed myself to love him, really love him, in a way I never thought I could. For 7 blissful years, we built a life together. A house, a dog, and a beautiful son. It felt like everything I'd ever wanted. My therapist, my friends, even my family, everyone was proud of me. I was finally free from the chains of my past. But it was all too perfect. And in the back of my mind, a tiny voice whispered, what if? 2 weeks ago, Tiago was killed in a motorcycle accident. The world shattered. I didn't know how to breathe without him. He was everything to me. His family helped, but it was never the same. One evening, while going through photo albums with his mother, I froze when I saw pictures of Tiago from his youth. The same sunglasses, the same red bike. A chill ran down my spine as I stared at the photos. That wasn't just any bike. Those weren't just any sunglasses. The man who haunted me, the one who followed me for years, it was him. My husband was him. The stalker, the ghost in my life, had somehow become the man I married. You ever felt safe, only to realize that someone is lurking right under your nose? Picture this. I was in college, just a regular sophomore, juggling school and a long-distance relationship. Things were going fine until I decided to dip my toes into the world of online dating. It felt like an innocent enough escape at first. A couple of harmless conversations, nothing more. But that's when a message from a user named H00Ketup started my descent into terror. His messages were strange, bordering on creepy, but I brushed it off, until one day he knew things he shouldn't have. A simple, innocent question. You go to Penn, right? No one on that site knew that. No one. I blocked him immediately, thinking nothing more of it. But just minutes later, another message popped up from a different account. I figured you blocked me. That's very rude. Najimksov. My heart skipped a beat. I stared at the screen, frozen. How did he know my name? How did he know I was the one who blocked him? I tried to reason with him, asked him to leave me alone. That should have been the end of it, right? It wasn't. The messages kept coming, every minute, relentlessly. I'd log in, and there they were. Different accounts, same creepy pattern. I couldn't escape him. It felt like he was always watching, waiting for me to crack. Then, something even stranger happened. I started to notice a trend. All the profiles that rated me 5 stars were from guys who just wrote Penn 2014 under their details. Nothing else. Just a vague, indistinct photo, usually of some attractive man. Never enough detail to really know who they were. And they all had the same message, asking me about my life, asking about my school, digging into my world with terrifying precision. I felt like I was drowning in this sea of faceless stalkers. A few days later, I was at my climbing gym when an employee pulled me aside. His face was tense, like he'd seen a ghost. A man just called, he whispered, asking if Najimksov was a member here. He wanted to surprise you. He wouldn't give his name. My heart dropped. How did he know where I climbed? I could feel the walls closing in. Was this man stalking me in real life? The messages continued, and I started receiving new ones. Strange accounts with pictures of me at Chipotle, in a lecture hall, on my bike. I thought I was being paranoid, but no. Every time I went to check my messages, more pictures, old ones. I couldn't even remember when the photos were taken, but there they were. Proof that someone had been following me, photographing me, long before I even realized it. My blood ran cold. I didn't know what was worse, knowing he was watching, or knowing he had been watching for so long. I was terrified to go anywhere alone. I couldn't even step outside without looking over my shoulder. Then came the final message. If we don't meet up again, right now, I'm going to end it. I felt my stomach twist into a knot. This wasn't just some internet creep anymore. He was threatening to end his life if I didn't meet him. The manipulation was unreal. It was like he thought he owned me, that he could break me down piece by piece until I gave in. But I wasn't going to give him that satisfaction. I've never met you, I replied, trying to remain calm. Hiding in the bushes while I walked to class hardly counts as meeting me. Go fuck yourself. Don't speak to me again. It was harsh, but it was the only way I could stand up for myself. But just when I thought it was over, the police arrived at my door with a search warrant. The police didn't tell me much at first. They just took my laptop and combed through my apartment. They didn't even seem surprised when they found tiny cameras in my ventilation system, hidden so expertly I never would have noticed. My stomach churned at the thought that this person had been in my space, watching my every move. Stay with family or friends, they said, their faces grim. I couldn't grasp the reality of it. Someone had been living in the shadows of my life, observing me 24/7 without me ever knowing. Who could do something like that? How could I have been so blind? I thought the worst was over, but the real horror had yet to reveal itself. Days passed. I was a mess. My mind raced with a million questions, but the one that haunted me the most was, who was he? Where was he now? And how did he know so much about me? A week and a half later, my nightmare finally unfolded. I found out who my stalker was, the face I had seen 100 times, without realizing it. He wasn't some stranger from the internet. He was the one person who had always been there, lurking in plain sight. The guy who replaced my air filters. The man who appeared in the background of family photos in the hallway of my apartment building. He had been my landlord's son. The quiet man who lived in the same building, who saw me every day without me ever suspecting. The revelation hit me like a punch to the gut. I had passed him countless times, never knowing he was watching, waiting, planning. The man who had manipulated me, stalked me, and tormented me for months was someone I had trusted without even knowing it. He had been living under my roof, lurking just inches away from my life, with my complete ignorance. The horror of it all was suffocating. He knew everything about me, but I had never known anything about him. How many other women had fallen prey to his twisted game? And how many more would? As I stood there, in the ruins of what I thought was a safe space, I couldn't help but wonder, how many more secrets are lurking in the shadows, waiting for their turn to be exposed? Sometimes, life throws you into situations so strange, so downright terrifying, that you question if you're living in a nightmare. It was the fall of 2001, and I was just another freshman at a state party school, filled with reckless energy, ready to blow off some steam after graduating from a military prep school. I had a solid group of friends, including Bill, a buddy from my old school who lived just a few floors below me in the same dorm. It was everything you'd expect from college: parties, late-night drinking, random hookups, and no thought for tomorrow. But there was something off about that first month, something I couldn't shake. It was only a matter of time before it would escalate into something I couldn't ignore. It started innocently enough. One night, my dorm phone, yes, a landline, rang. Hello. I answered groggily. A voice came through, flat and robotic, like an early GPS system. Hi Gary, how are you today? I rubbed my eyes, confused. Who the hell was this? I muttered a "who is this?" and heard the same weird phrase repeated. Hi Gary, how are you today? I laughed it off, assuming it was Bill messing with me. But when I hung up and passed out, it didn't feel like just a prank. Over the next few days, I pushed it out of my mind, until it happened again, a week later, at almost the exact same time. Hi Gary, I'm watching you. My initial thoughts were clear. Bill was on some ridiculous, drawn-out joke. But this time, it wasn't funny. Something about it made my skin crawl. I confronted Bill the next morning. He looked just as confused as I did. Seriously, dude, how are you not knee-deep in alcohol and sorority girls right now? He swore it wasn't him. I didn't bring it up again, but the calls didn't stop. A few days later, I returned to my room to find multiple messages on my answering machine. I barely even knew that thing worked. The first message was the same eerie robotic voice. Hi Gary, I'm watching you. The second message, I thought I asked you to answer my calls, Gary. The third was even worse. Where might Gary be on a Tuesday night? Whoever it was knew my name, my schedule. Too much to just be a coincidence. It wasn't long before the calls became a nightly occurrence, each one getting more disturbing, more personalized. By Christmas break, they were relentless, multiple calls every day. This wasn't a prank anymore. It was something darker. I kept the situation to myself, too embarrassed to admit to anyone, especially my family, that I was being stalked by a voice on the other end of the phone. But after returning to school for the spring semester, the calls took a more sinister turn. How's your family in Cyprus, Gary? The voice, now even colder and more menacing, seemed to know more than it should. How did it know where my parents lived? This wasn't just some bored friend. This was a person, or something, who was obsessed with me. And then it all spiraled further. I'm very interested in being close to you, Gary, the voice would say. I have tools I can bring. It will all be over soon. The threats weren't random anymore. They were specific, horrifyingly so. I began to feel like a caged animal, trapped by this unseen force. Something, or someone, was watching my every move. One night, As I tried to enjoy a party with friends, the calls became unbearable. I had already shared the messages with a few buddies, and they were just as freaked out as I was. But nothing prepared me for what happened next. The voice started mentioning a girl from my past, Layla, someone I hadn't seen in years. "Your friend Layla," the voice whispered ominously. At first, I thought it was another twisted joke, but when the calls grew more threatening and the voice started mentioning Layla by name more often, I knew I had to talk to her. When I reached out, she had no clue what I was talking about. My heart sank. This was no joke, and it wasn't someone I knew. It was something much darker. And soon, everything I knew would be shaken to its core. The calls were now coming in at all hours, each one more disturbing than the last. By March, I was living in constant fear. One night after a party, I borrowed my buddy Carl's truck to drive back to campus. But I made a wrong turn, and before I knew it, I was deep in a dark, empty road, surrounded by nothing but fields. It felt like something out of a bad horror movie. At a strange intersection, I noticed something out of the corner of my eye, a figure darting across the road, almost too quick to catch. But I didn't think much of it until the next day, when the voice on the other end of the line repeated the exact road, time, and date of my drive. It wasn't just stalking, it was tracking. This wasn't some random person. This was a full-on predator who knew exactly where I was at all times. It wasn't until the night of April 27th that I realized just how far this had gone. The voice, now chillingly calm, gave me the details of where to meet. Coleman Hall, at midnight. I wasn't stupid. I knew this wasn't a normal situation anymore. My friends gathered around, ready to back me up. As I walked toward Coleman, my stomach churned. It felt like the longest walk of my life. I saw something move, a shadow, crouching near the corner of the building. My blood ran cold. There was no way I could have seen him. The lights were out, and the shadows were thick. But there he was, barely a few feet away, hidden just enough to make it seem like I was walking into a trap. In an instant, my instincts kicked in. I sprinted toward him, adrenaline surging. But as I turned the corner, I saw the van, idling in the parking lot, its lights flickering. The van sped off before I could reach it, but I wasn't going down without a fight. I watched as the van disappeared into the night, leaving me breathless and shaken. It wasn't until I turned back to where the figure had been hiding that I saw it, the camera, sitting on a tripod, recording everything. My heart sank. This was no game. The whole thing had been planned. Every call, every encounter, every threat. I had become the victim of someone's sick obsession. And the worst part, I still don't know who was behind it all, or why it happened. Was it a twisted stalker? A former acquaintance? Or something worse? Someone with a terrifyingly meticulous mind who knew how to control me through fear? Whatever it was, I couldn't shake the feeling that the nightmare wasn't over. It had only just begun.